why, let me give you one negative reaction from a number of Americans, and that was, we have enraged the terrorists now. We've provoked them. They're foaming at their mouth, and they're going to come at us. We've asked, in effect, for retaliation, and so that Obama's made the situation very bad.
I mean, in a sense, they're right. In this sense, that if this is all we do, if this pinprick of action, I mean, I'm very happy Bin Laden's dead and so on, but this pinprick, it's in a big picture, it's meaningless. Terrorism is going to continue. We haven't identified the enemy. We refuse to name the enemy. We continue to appease them. We continue to play games. We refuse to actually identify the countries responsible and to destroy them. In that sense, yeah, terrorism, there's a likelihood that terrorism will increase. But just imagine, after Hiroshima and Nagasaki, American intellectuals coming out and say, we've really upset the Japanese now. They're going to really go after us. And look at the historical facts. The historical facts are that Japan is one of our best allies today, that the Japanese are incredibly friendly towards us today. There's also real evidence with the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, and you can graph this, that when Israel got tough and went after terrorists and killed them and showed them that it would not succumb, terrorism declined dramatically. When Israel sat down and negotiated with them and appeased them, terrorism increased dramatically. Terrorists are motivated by our weakness. They are motivated by the idea that they can be successful. If they were to be convinced that they didn't have a shred of a chance to bring about their vision of world domination or their vision of the destruction of the United States and the West, they would stop. They would, the people on the fence would move away from them. Right now, the people on the fence are backing them because they see our weakness. Mm-hmm. This thing with Bin Laden was too weak. That was the problem. It sent too weak of a message to the Muslim world, and therefore it will embolden more radicalism. What we need to be is a lot stronger, a lot tougher, and that's what will finally, destroy their will to attack us.
Okay, now just a few more. The lionization of Obama. Of course, he captured the enemy. But what about the fact that he campaigned and voted when he was a senator against enhanced interrogation? The Justice Department right now, Holder, has got a criminal investigation against the people who conducted the operation which led to bin Laden. Obama has been an appeaser. Everyone can see that. A total capitulator to terrorism. So you have to ask yourself, no matter if you're a truck driver, or a professor, what would a president, no matter what his views are, have to do if they came to him and said, we found Obama? Is he going to say, leave him alone, I don't want to interfere? He's got to say, take him out. Why in the country must know that. The country, if anyone with a brain has to know that. How can they lionize and love him when it's a situation where he has opposed capturing the guy and had no choice but to kill him? That is unintelligible.
Well, I don't know how much they lionize and love him. He got a bump in the polls, but I think it's going to be very temporary.
Somebody told me 10%.
Yeah, 10% by some polls, which is low for this kind of event historically. Other polls showed it was only 2%, so it was somewhere between 2 and 10%, but that's not a lot. Look, Americans, particularly those 10%, are very concrete bound. It's day to day. But look, some Americans didn't believe he would do it. Some Americans thought that if that information was revealed to a weakling like Obama, he would turn the other cheek and walk away and pretend he didn't know anything.
Just hush it up.
Yeah, just the fact that he would do it, I think, told Americans that he's not as bad as some people thought he was, which was horrific. But look, there's no question. The American people are very concrete bound. Unfortunately, many Americans don't look at the long term. But there are Americans out there who still don't trust Obama, who still are suspicious of him. And I think after he gives this Middle East talk, which he's going to give, I think, this coming week, I think his poll numbers are going to go back down because the obvious appeasement of his administration will become clear again to the American.
I don't know. To me, these things are clear from the speech. The first speech Bush gave told you everything after 9/11, and the first speech Obama gave if you translate it into English, was exactly this. Look at the great things I achieved. Now we as a country can achieve socialism.
Yeah, no.
That's what it was.
And Obama certainly suggested that. Obama's suggestion was, now that we've done this, we, as the collective we as the state, can do anything. And he's certainly talking about fixing the economy, Medicare, Obamacare and everything, or socializing the country. And I think there's definitely an intent. But I think the country's response to Bush was a lot more worrisome than the country's response to Obama, and sustained itself for longer. I agree with you. He was weak from his first speech on.
Okay, I just want a few concluding points here. What's the American public's attitude toward the U.S. terrorist threat now? Do they think it's safer or what? And this is what I read. A Gallup survey found that 54% of respondents believe bin Laden's death will make the U.S. safer from terrorism. And 73% said they were more confident the United States can win the war on terrorism. Can you explain this?
Yes, they have no clue what the war on terrorism is. And here I blame, squarely our leadership, political and intellectual, for not explaining what this war is really about. First of all, it's not a war on terrorism. There's no such thing. There can't be. You can't have a war on a tactic. Right. It's a war on totalitarian Islam. And nobody's explained that to them, and they're not aware of it. And I find...
So even so, why do they think killing the leader is going to stop the worldwide movement? It's the same idea that if you kill Hitler, that ends Nazism.
Well, I mean,
there's 10 people in the wings waiting to take his place.
No, we know that, and I think that's right. But again, it goes to the concrete boundness of so many Americans, and at the margin, if we continued and we did the right things, killing bin Laden is a good thing and is a positive step in the war on terrorism.
What is the killing of bin Laden and the country and everybody's reaction? What is the net effect, if any, in terms of your expectation? Are we safer, less safe, or it's irrelevant?
Well, in the short term, we're certainly safer because it disrupts their network. It makes it more difficult for them to commit. There's going to be a battle for leadership. I think in the long term, the threat is only growing. And the threat is not just from the bin Laden types who are going to use planes to blow up buildings, but the threat is from the Muslim Brotherhood taking over whole countries so-called democratically. The threat is from the whole uprisings in the Middle East, which are led to a large extent, and I fear this is going to come true, by radical Islamists who are going to present a much more substantial, much more radicalized threat to the United States in the distant future than bin Laden ever did, and we have no idea. This administration or any Republican administration at this point have no idea how to deal with that threat.
Okay, we're running out of time, but I just have to ask you this last question. 9/11 was approximately equivalent to Pearl Harbor in terms of the damage and the death. And it didn't do anything except rhetoric and phony wars. What event could you project would, if it happened, lead us to war against this crowd? Is there anything you can project?
I think I learned from you.
Yeah.
The fact that people do not learn from experience. Facts don't change people's minds because they are so molded by the ideas that they reshape their experiences, they reshape the facts to suit them. I don't think it's a matter of scale. I don't think if you killed 30,000 Americans, the response will be different than if you killed 3,000. And it wasn't.
What if Iran dropped a nuclear bomb on New York and annihilated the whole...
If it was Iran, and we knew exactly there was Iran, and you could say we're now at war with Iran, then yeah, we would probably invade Iran and take it over and thrash them. We'd still bring them democracy, and we'd still do it in a very nice way. We wouldn't win it we wouldn't fight it like we should be fighting it. But if it was a terrorist organization, if it wasn't a state, nothing. I don't believe anything would change. If a nuke went off tomorrow, and we couldn't identify where the nuke came from, but it was Al Qaeda, or it was Muslim Brotherhood, or whatever, I don't believe that fundamentally the American view of the situation would change. Remember that Bush had 75% approval rating, and it could have done anything after 9/11, and he did nothing because...
So people would stomach even that?
I think they would. I just don't see what would change in their conception about what America is and what the world is that would generate that. I think they'd be more open to our educational efforts, just like they were thinking after 9/11. But there's so much work to do before we get the American people to the point where they are self-assertive enough to actually win and fight a proper war. I don't think anything can be done in the short term to change that.
We have to draw a line here. I want to thank you. If anybody in the whole world is doing the work that you're talking about, you are number one in quantity and quality.
Thank you.
On behalf of the rest of the world that still wants to survive, thank you very much for being my guest today.
Thank you.